All right, consider the triangle classification script from chapter 6, one of the optional ones to explore this week. Based on your selection here, the tutor here tells you whether you're right and wrong. Now the tutor is going to draw a triangle and he has to make a choice. So if we look down at his new question, we're going to pick a random number for the type we're going to draw, scalene, isosceles, or equilateral. So 1, 2, or 3 are the options. So if the type is chosen to be 1, we're going to have a scalene. If the type is 2, we're going to have an isosceles. And then the else is any other option. In this case, the only other option is a 3, so 3 would be equilateral. So notice the nested if, then else, if, then else. So we have an if, then else in an if, then else. So that's called nesting, putting one inside of the other. And that gives us kind of a menu to work with here. Now check out the area calculator. A similar thing happens in the area calculator where you can choose to find the area of a rectangle, a triangle, or circle. And based on that choice, you're asked for some values and the tutor makes the calculation for you. And so let's check out the code for that here. So again, this time it isn't predefined 1, 2, or 3. The user is going to enter 1, 2, or 3. Similar idea. If the answer the user inputs is 1, then we're going to find the area of a rectangle. Else, if the answer is 2, we're going to find the area of a triangle. Else, if the answer is 3, we're going to find the area of a circle. Now notice there's an extra else because the user could type anything, right? I don't have to type 1, 2, or 3, even though it's telling me to up here. I could type something else like banana, okay? And when I do that, it's going to say, whoa, invalid choice. I don't know what to do with that. Now notice the nesting there. Why do we nest them? So let's look at this block of code over here. In this case, I just say, let's scroll over a little to see it. Come on. If answer is 1, do a rectangle. Underneath, if answer is 2, draw a triangle. Underneath, if answer is 3, draw a circle. And then I have the else invalid choice. You could think about what would be the consequences of not having an if, then else here, and just putting in an if there for answer 3, and then another if for invalid choice. So I'm going to let you contemplate that one on your own. I'm just going to do this one right here. Boom. Bye-bye. All right, so what I want to do is look at a flow chart about the nesting and a flow chart about the stacking of ifs and see how they're different. All right, so here I have the nested if then else. And so I just want to walk through this code in terms of a diagram to explain what's going on with it. So first, if I have checking to see if the answer is 1, true means we're going to run the rectangle script. And then when I do an else statement, I like to draw that off to the left. If there isn't an else, I like to draw it coming down from the logical condition block. So here I had an else, so I'm putting it off to the side. And so if the answer 1 is false, then we're going to jump to this block right here, which is another condition to check. And so we check to see if the answer is 2. If the answer is 2, we're going to run the triangle block. Right? Now, just a note about the running the rectangle or running the triangle here. The way this code over here is structured, if the answer is 1 and it runs the rectangle, then it's going to skip this big else clause and jump all the way down here to the bottom where there's nothing more to do. If the answer was 2, it wasn't 1, so we jump to the else. If it is 2, it's going to run triangle, and because answer 2 is true, it's done with the if. It can't run the else because answer equals 2 is true, and it's going to jump to the end of this if else block, which is way down here at the bottom, and we're done with the code. Over here, false. Maybe it wasn't 1, maybe it wasn't 2, maybe it's 3. Check to see if it's 3. If it is 3, it's going to run the circle. Running the circle, once it's done with that, it's going to skip the else because answer equals 3 was true. It's going to jump down to the end of that block, which is also related to the end of the other 2, and it's done with code. Otherwise, if answer wasn't equal 3, so at this point it means it's not 1, it's not 2, it's not 3, it's something else. We didn't program for something else, so we just say, hey, invalid choice, wasn't expecting that. So that's the menu option to deal with. We have plans to deal with a menu option of 1, 2, or 3. Anything else, sorry, no can do. Now let's look at the stacking of the if blocks instead. What if we had done it in this fashion? Instead of nested if then else's, what if we just stack the if blocks? You notice this picture looks a little bit different, for two reasons. One, when I just have an if then without an else, I like to draw a straight down, meaning continue whatever code is after the if then else. Whereas it's a different kind of branching process when I have an if then else, right? There's two decisions that are being made there. So back to this code over here. So if the answer is 1, what's going to happen? Well, it's going to run the rectangle block. If the answer isn't 1, it's going to skip out of this if then block and jump to the next one and ask, is the answer 2? If the answer is 2, it's going to run triangle. If it's not 2, it's going to jump out of that block and hit the next block of code. Now, there's a catch though, if I go back up to the top. If the answer is not 1, or even if the answer, if the answer is 1, it's going to run the rectangle block. It's done with this if block, and so it's just going to jump here. It's not going to jump to the end of all of this. The answer was true. It ran the rectangle, and now it's going to see what's next in the code. So after we run the rectangle, it's also going to come down here and check to see if the answer was 2. Well, let's think about this. So let's write this down. Let's suppose the answer, let's just call it A, was equal to 1. What's going to happen in this flow chart? Answer is 1, that's true, so we're going to jump over here. We're going to do whatever rectangle says to do, and then we're going to fly down here. Then we're going to check, is answer 2? Well, 1 is not 2, so it's going to say false. It's going to get here. It's going to say 1 is not 3, so it's going to do a false. And then it's going to get to this invalid thing, and it's going to say invalid. So it's going to draw the rectangle, and then after that, it's going to say, sorry, invalid choice. Not what I wanted. So was it important to nest those blocks to get the proper logic, the proper sequence of events out of this code? Yes, they had to be nested like this to make that happen. If you just try to stack if blocks without the else, you get a totally different kind of procedure. And there are reasons we want to do this sometimes, but not in these cases. All right, that's it. I hope you found this helpful. More soon.